My Straight Talk family, you hear that theme song, then you know it is time for another edition of Straight Talk, and time for me to say good night to the world, because we are on the World Wide Web. We reach and touch you all over the globe. There's some of you in Africa. There's some of you in Europe. There are some of you in Asia. And there are a whole lot of you all over North America. But like it is said, that charity begins at home. So let me say a very pleasant night to St. Kitts and Nevis and to the entire Caribbean region, to my Kittitian division and Caribbean diaspora all over the globe. Like I said, I'm at liberty to say good night. I can't say good morning, and I will say good afternoon as well, because one of such greetings will be applicable to the region in which you now find yourselves. And I want to thank those who continue to share the link, because whenever you do get first-timers, and I'm grateful for that. Just tell the world that Straight Talk is a public service program that facilitates and promotes free, underline free expression on all issues of national interest, be they legal, be they environmental, be they technological, social, economic, and or political issues. On this program, we try to raise the level of national discourse. We try to raise the level of national consciousness by alerting our people to their rights, to their responsibilities, and certainly to their obligations. And my name is Ian Patches Liburd, and I give Almighty God thanks for blessing me with yet another opportunity to join you in conversation, my Straight Talk family on yet another occasion. And as your host, I am duty bound to pledge that I'll remain an untiring advocate of truthfulness. Yes, my Straight Talk family, because like the hymn writer wrote, we are called to be God's prophets, speaking for the truth and right, standing firm for godly justice, bringing evil things to light. So let's seek the courage needed, our high calling to fulfill, that we all may know the blessing of the doing of God's will. So my Straight Talk family, and especially the first timers, let me inform you that absolutely nothing is watered down on this program. We don't try to make it more interesting, neither by omission or by exaggeration. And Straight Talk is not about sensationalism or creating excitement, especially at the expense of accuracy. So we lead on the facts, and it is my duty to present the unvarnished truth, is what I call it, the plain truth, especially when it comes to good governance, integrity, and transparency in St. Kitts and Nevis, and as a matter of fact, all across the globe. Because we live in one village. The world is one village. And if you haven't learned that since the advent of COVID, you won't learn that again. So this program joins us together with people across our federation. This program joins us with people in the diaspora all around the world. Some we know very well and have met. Others we do not know, and many we will never meet, and I mean physically. And some will agree with the positions of truth advanced on Straight Talk, and some will disagree. And that's fine, because we promote what I call a diversity of views. But what will sadden me, my Straight Talk family, what will sadden me is if we ever start to become disagreeable. So let's thank Almighty God, nonetheless, for helping us to understand, oh, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Let's therefore hope and pray for the day when we all will sing His praise together. And I must always remind you as well that Straight Talk is a participative program. By that I mean we include your calls, we include your emails, and if you're so minded, call in. The numbers are on your screens, on your monitors. And there are those who like what I call the cloak of anonymity. So we give you access via our email platform, and the address is there on your monitors as well. One word, straighttalkpatches@gmail.com. Alexa. We also heard live on Alexa. Just say, Alexa, play Massive Vibes Radio. And you are right in tune with Straight Talk. And there's some of you who have made donations to support our efforts here on Straight Talk. And I must say thank you. I must also reassure you that no matter how small your contribution is, it will help us to continue these important discussions. It also helps us to defray our costs and to maintain our commitment to public service. What we are doing here is just public service. And others who wish to donate can simply scan the code on your screen to access the payment form. And trust me, it's a very, very simple process. So thank you again for your support and for helping us to keep the dialogue alive. I always am duty bound as well to say a special welcome to my junior brigade, young Dwayne, Tristan, Shama, Kevin, Young Rue, Jamal, Travis, Travon, and my grandson Neema and his dear friend Soraya. I will never hear the end of it if I don't recognize them on Straight Talk each time. What about the special lady in St. Louis? Haven't spoken for some days. That's uncharacteristic of us. But trust that all is well. I, as well, I hail the Queen in Texas. But we usually begin with our observations in review, which are an integral part of Straight Talk. Then we move into our thesis. And following our thesis, we include your calls, your emails as mentioned earlier, to allow your full participation. Yes, you get an opportunity on this program to have your say, so to speak. And our observations review highlight the current issues and do some reflection, then ask a few questions. And after our observations, we will begin our thesis for tonight, which I have titled From Servants to Masters, Justice System at Crossroads. So please, therefore, don't change the platform, don't change your link, just spread the word that Straight Talk is live on social media, YouTube, Facebook, also on Alexa. And our first observation, I refer to it as the tale of the three piers, my Straight Talk family. The tale of the three piers. I saw this lovely sight yesterday, and I had to expose you to this lovely sight and give you some background to it. Because if you look at the bottom of your screen there, you see that cargo vessel at the cargo pier. So in the late 70s, that cargo pier, or construction of that cargo pier, was almost complete before the death in 1978 of the late Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw. Bradshaw was making certain that we can export our sugar in a more efficient and effective manner, and he started the construction of that cargo pier up there in Liburd. But it was a vision of Kennedy Simmons to reclaim 25 acres of land that created Port Zante and a dedicated cruise facility. Michael Oliver Powell and his permanent secretary then, Lachlan Richards, pioneered the cruise pier project when it became clear that cargo and cruise were never a good mix, because the earlier vessels, cruise vessels like the Cunard Countess and Cunard Princess, were accommodated at the cargo pier. But it was never a good mix to have cargo and passengers, containers moved around, and passengers walking on the port. So thus came the first cruise pier at Port Zante. And while I'm not one to blow my own trumpet, and you see this, the first cruise pier accommodates those two vessels, those two small vessels on your screen there, just next to that top arrow. And I was about to say that while I am not one to blow my own trumpet, I will confess that at times I felt alone in the cabinet when I advanced the case for a second cruise pier at Port Zante. How can you justify to the country that we will spend over $100 million on one project? That was a question one member of the cabinet asked. Ernst & Young, or EY as they call, was therefore engaged to provide that rationale. And boy, Ernst & Young did a good job in demonstrating the positive impact that will be derived from this project. Impact on the grassroots economy and the country for generations unborn. Another cabinet colleague recommended that a value for money analysis, VFM, had to be done. And that too provided every justification for this project. So today, this pier is one of three. One of three piers within the whole Caribbean, believe me, that can accommodate the world's largest cruise ship afloat. And you can see from your monitors that icon of the seas, berthed there at the second cruise pier down there at Port Sante. Local companies like SL Hospital and Company and TDC Limited not only provided support, but also benefited immensely from this project, as can be gleaned from the comments of the Executive Director, Natalie Kelsick, who said this.
Natalie Kelsick, Executive Director at SL Horsfords and Company Limited. And I just want to say that, we are so happy and so proud to be a part of this project here in St. Kitts. And also, we know that this job is going to bring a lot of good things to a lot of people. And, talking from Horsford's point of view, we're very happy to be able to provide local support to a project of this magnitude here successfully.
And my Stray Dog family, it bears repeating as well that every single captain has given this pier a stamp of approval, coming from the very first captain that took a vessel alongside the pier, captain of the Celebrity Cruise Lines.
Your ship is one of two ships that are the first to dock at our second cruise pier. How do you feel coming to St. Kitts to such a warm welcome?
It is very nice. The new pier is very wide, and it is much better actually than the previous one. And it's a very nice construction. And for us, from the marine side of view, you have enough fenders, enough bollards, nice and safe, with much better angle against the wind also. So congratulations, this is amazing.
Amazing, my Stray Dog family. In spite of the ridicule and attempts to undermine its construction by the then Douglas administration. But that I wanted to provide as an observation tonight, which I labeled Tale of the Three Piers in St. Kitts. Our second observation, my Stray Dog family, I went across the Narrows in Nevis for a fleeting visit. And many local contractors, developers, and residents are asking how this investor got permission to construct this 75-foot tower over there in Jessops in Nevis. And I was told that it's a restaurant being constructed by this billionaire over there in Nevis, who is very cozy with the Snake Mark Brantley, and who has promised them a loan to construct the international airport because he wants, we understand, to land his private jet on Nevis. But this restaurant being constructed by this billionaire has raised questions about the obvious violation or violations of the Nevis Physical Planning and Development Control Regulations. I tried to ask many more questions, but the ones I contacted are tight-lipped. But everybody is afraid of these politicians who have come not as our servants any longer, but our masters. But my Straight Talk family, Straight Talk will keep you posted on this development. And our third observation relates to our Prime Minister who went to London to see the King, as he posted on his Facebook page. He said, "Today I had the pleasure of visiting His Majesty King Charles III at Sandringham Estate, where we discussed matters of mutual interest, including sustainability, the environment, youth advocacy, and education. His Majesty's passion for advancing these issues is evident. We pledge," Drew wrote, "to continue working together for a better and more sustainable world." And I was taken aback when I saw this Facebook post, my Straight Talk family. And I reflected that in 1623, the English landed on St. Kitts, and for nigh 3 long centuries, from the 17th, 18th, to 19th century, the British elite used St. Kitts as a hub for trading in slaves with forced African labor who were confined to the sugar plantations. The jury is still out on the last colonial step to be made. Although, my Straight Dog family, hear me, although Prime Minister July made this statement very early in his term of office. He said this, my Straight Dog family, do you recall?
The head of state still reside in the monarchy of England. And so that aspect of it is telling us that we are not totally free yet. That consultation or discussion will start sometime during my leadership. I think that acknowledging that something would have gone wrong, something wrong was done, that acknowledging it and apologizing for it is a step in the right direction.
But my Straight Dog family, that was obviously, as I mentioned before, one of Dr. July's say anything moments. He has these say anything moments and try anything moments. And that surely was one of his say anything moments. But we need to first decolonize the mind of our Prime Minister, who on one hand seemed to support us remaining in the Commonwealth realm, in that the king would remain our titular head, our monarch, our head of state, my Straight Dog family. So we need first, as I said, to decolonize the mind of our Prime Minister. And ironically, my Straight Dog family, just yesterday, January 29, some amongst us recognize the 90th year since the Buckley's riots, like the Nyabingi Order of Theocracy, I think it's called, Ras Kalunji, Ras Aya, and his colleagues. And they reflected, no doubt, on the depression back then, my Straight Dog family. And Sir Probin at some time gave us a historical reflection going back to 1896, my Straight Dog family.
And if you want to get an idea of how depressed situations were in St. Kitts, bear in mind that between 1896 and 1929, the population of St. Kitts fell by 43%. People were just going everywhere. Santo Domingo, Cuba, America. In those days, all you needed to get to America was your passage, your little suitcase, and that was it. I mean, no visas and all of the problems you have today. That's the point I'm making. You can just get on the boat and you end up in America. That continued until the mid-1920s. And so people were going. And the effect of what we're having in St. Kitts then is that because the sugar industry had such a stranglehold, it meant that people who saw no future went away. Compare Nevis. And you'll find that when the sugar industry failed, they tried a system called the métayage, and large estates were cut up, and people, you then had the birth of a fairly small peasant type of agriculture, where they would grow their cotton and smaller crops. In St. Kitts, because sugar remained supreme, sugar remained king, they were able to take advantage of this situation. So what we are saying in so many words is that on the economic front, there was a lot of frustration. On the political front, those who had the power held on to it, and up until 1934, they were doing everything possible to ensure that the able and accomplished men of St. Kitts, who were not planters, could not become representative in the Legislative Council. That is the situation which faced the people at that particular time. And so something had to give. And perhaps it could have been so much worse. But thankfully, it was not as bad as one feared. 3 persons lost their lives. Several people were injured. And in the end, it triggered a chain of events which brought a great deal of good, not only to St. Kitts, but to the rest of the Caribbean.
So my Straight Talk family, having recognized the Buckley's uprising or the Buckley's riots, whatever they call them, the different connotations, ask ourselves, what do you think Terence Michael July said to the king? Did he ask for an apology, as he said earlier? Did he ask for reparation? What do you think Terence Michael July said to the king? And our final observation, I am still getting updates on the Urban Development Corporation. We understand that CEO Kerry Nero has declared that no checks are to be written. That's because the fiscal situation or the financial situation down there at UDC is terrible. We know that many stores as well are closing down because of the lack of business. Boats are leaving the marina. That is in urgent need of repairs. And there's a lack of security there. We'll be watching the UDC closely and we'll keep you posted. But word on the street is that the UDC is out of money. And no doubt, perhaps, it may have to be closed or absorbed as a department in the government. But those are my observations and review for tonight, my Straight Dog family. And I move right into my thesis, which I mentioned earlier, that I've titled From Servants to Masters, Justice System at the Crossroads, or at Crossroads. And since August 2022, with the advent of the July administration, the justice system here in St. Kitts has faced what I call defining crossroads, especially since the appointment of an Attorney General called Garth Lucifer Wilkin. Historically, the justice system in its ideal form had been portrayed as a servant of the people, upholding the rule of law and serving the public interest with impartiality and fairness. I told you once about the late Premier Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw, our first national hero, who never tampered with the course of justice, even when his best friend Big Sam transgressed the laws of our land. He never interfered, and young Crown Counsel Henry Stigumber Brown prosecuted Bradshaw's friend, because for Bradshaw, justice was blind. Not in today's St. Kitts, however. Since the emergence of a more politicized judicial landscape, which has signaled a shift away from this foundational principle, the introduction of new leadership and policies have led to concerns that the justice system, rather than acting as a neutral arbiter, had begun to take on the role of a master, serving the interests of those in power rather than the people it was designed to protect. The shift was marked by increasing partisanship, with judicial appointments and disappointments, magistrates removed, the registrar sidelined, court clerks terminated. Law enforcement practices and legal interpretations seemingly aligned with the priorities of the political elite, the current political elite. The influence of the executive branch over judicial outcomes through appointments, legislation, and executive orders raised questions about the independence of the justice system. As a result, the justice system increasingly seemed to reflect the interests and ideologies of the powerful, further exacerbating societal divisions and undermining political or public trust in legal institutions. Open threats by a conflicted Attorney General and Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs to embarrass some people. He spoke of the 70-30 rule to embarrass citizens. Garth Lucifer Wilkin also promised to appoint a special prosecutor. But Straight Talk understands that the Attorney General appointed the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecution, Adley Smith, to act as the special prosecutor. And we asked the question, how could this be? The transformation from a system of servants to one of masters was not merely symbolic, my Straight Talk family. It has tangible consequences for the marginalized and the poor, whose voices are often sidelined in favor of political expediency. The judicial system, once a pillar of democracy, now appears to be co-opted by political machinery, diminishing its role as a safeguard for justice and equality. The July administration's influence over the justice system since 2022 has marked a critical turning point in the relationship between the state and its citizens. The shift from a system that serves the public to one that serves the political elite raises important questions about the future of democratic principles, the integrity of the legal system, and the ability of the justice system to remain a true servant of the people. Whenever people have succumbed to the belief that the government has the power to do what it deems expedient, they have lost their freedoms to megalomaniacs like Stalin, Mao, and Hitler. It was, I believe, Benjamin Franklin who wrote, or who said, and I quote, "Those who will give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." Leaders, my Straight Dog family, should serve the people, not rule over them. The best leaders are those who listen, understand, and work toward the common good, and not like Lucifer, my Straight Dog family. And we know Lucifer well, my Straight Dog family.
They call me Lucifer. But I ain't afraid of nobody, you know. I ain't afraid of nobody. But they want to demonize people for the sake of politics. Nasty people. And this house, which is a house where people are elected to serve, and those people choose other people to serve with them, is the place to tell our people when certain things are not acceptable in a society.
But this house, he referred to my Shredder family, has to be about representation and responsibility, not power for its own sake. It is the legislators and lawmakers, elected officials who create, amend, and repeal laws that shape the justice system. So often we hear that phrase, government of the people, by the people, for the people. It comes from Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, and it's really a powerful vision of democracy. It means that the government is not something imposed on the people from the outside, but is created and run by the people themselves. It suggests that the power to govern comes from the consent of the governed, and the government exists to serve the interests and welfare of the people. But we, the people, are quickly losing our inalienable rights because we have forgotten that our rights come from God and not from the government. All these current members of cabinet are our servants. They are not our masters. Their authority is derived from our consent, as we can only grant them powers that we can exercise as individuals. We, the people, must no longer tolerate the rampant corruption from this government that has failed us now for almost 3 years, and it gets progressively worse with time. The purpose of the government is to benefit all citizens, to protect their rights, and to ensure their well-being. The idea is that the government should work toward the common good, but that is not what we get from this bunch of misfits in office at this time. My Straight Talk family, at the crossroads of our justice system, a confluence of deeply troubling issues threatens to undermine the fundamental principles of fairness, impartiality, and accountability. These concerns, including a conflict of interest in the role of the Attorney General, the erosion of the jury trial system, and pervasive political interference and corruption within law enforcement are reshaping the landscape of justice, leading to a system that often fails to serve the people equitably and justly. First, the dual role of the Attorney General, who serves both as the chief legal advisor to the government and the Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs, creates a significant conflict, my Straight Talk family. That dual role creates a significant conflict, I dare say, my Straight Talk family. That role has to be revisited.
The Attorney General, by definition, is the legal advisor to the government.
Okay.
Most things that government does has to be vetted for legality first. So that is why that concept of engine of the government is so accurate, because almost anything that needs to be done in government has to come to the Attorney General's office for sign off, basically. You know, contracts, any opinions, any claims, any constitutional matters, all of that comes to the office of the Attorney General. In addition to sitting in cabinet, and then cabinet decisions, if there are any legal issues that arise, I have to advise cabinet on those issues. Let's separate it. There's the office of the Attorney General, the Attorney General's office, and then there's the Ministry of Justice and Legal Affairs. So I basically wear two hats. But I think when people hear Attorney General, they think of both. So I think it's only fair that people know about both.
Imagine, my Straight Talk family, This man's head is as tiny as a church mouse. How could two hats fit on his head? Maybe one hat would sit atop like a little crown, and the second hat would perch precariously on the top of the first like a quirky tower of headgear. But this concentration of power in a single individual undermines the checks and balances that are vital for a functioning democracy. The Attorney General, while charged with upholding the law impartially, has broken the law. The whole world knows that. Also, he has political ties and obligations that compromise his ability to make objective decisions. And his arrogance is well known. Call me Lucifer, as he said. The potential for political influence over legal decisions places the integrity of the justice system at risk, as legal outcomes could be shaped by partisan interests rather than the pursuit of justice. Moreover, the move to allow single-judge trials, which bypass the jury system, further diminishes the fundamental right to a fair trial by one's peers. Jury trials are a cornerstone of democratic justice, ensuring that the accused are judged by a diverse group of citizens who represent the country's moral compass. The elimination of this right limits the opportunity for a broader perspective in evaluating evidence, placing greater power in the hands of a single judge, a colonial judge who may be subject to personal biases or external pressures. Look at the police, my straight dog family, the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis police force. Additionally, the pervasive political interference in the police exacerbates the erosion of justice, as law enforcement is often used as a tool for political agendas rather than the impartial enforcement of the law. When a commissioner of police, my straight dog family, reassigns officers for failing to submit to a polygraph test, then promotes another officer to the rank of superintendent, who submits but fails not one, but two polygraph tests, my straight dog family. Imagine that.
With regards to the polygraph testing, we were doing some testing recently of our specialized unit, and a number of persons opted not to be vetted, and some internal decisions were taken with regards to those persons.
Can you clarify what those decisions were?
They have been reassigned to elsewhere.
Failing to submit two polygraph tests, but they have been reassigned. But an officer who failed two polygraph tests was promoted to superintendent in that very unit from which these officers were assigned. Then how can the public repose its confidence in such a leader, my straight dog family? But Sutton himself is either compromised or ill-prepared for the job he holds. After his sudden climb from inspector, having been catapulted past the ranks of superintendent, assistant commissioner of police, deputy commissioner of police, into his lofty position of commissioner of police. It's the truth. I have to tell you the truth, my straight dog family, and I mean no offense to the Commissioner James Sutton. But this political interference in the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis police force by the Prime Minister and Minister of National Security has led to a culture of corruption where misconduct goes unchecked, investigations are compromised, and accountability is severely diminished. As a result, the rule of law, once seen as blind to politics, becomes entangled with partisan motives, further diminishing trust in the justice system. Prosecutorial misconduct is another alarming issue that undermines justice. selective prosecution of cases, suppression of exculpatory evidence, and manipulation of legal outcomes contribute to a system where fairness is not guaranteed. The chief prosecutor, whose duty is to seek justice rather than simply secure convictions, helps to exacerbate systemic injustices, beg your pardon, whenever he fails to act with integrity. Straight Talk has been following the Dr. Simonette Williams killing over a month now, and we have told you about the deafening silence of the Commissioner of Police, James Sutton. And the weeks go by his silence, and his silence has become louder and louder. The young soul was buried on Monday last, and we all felt the pain of a mother who spoke to this unjust interruption, she called it, of life. Unjust interruption of life, she called it, my Straight Talk family.
Our mothers cry. Our mother's cry has a unique sadness. It's a pain that words cannot truly capture. This untimely death has turned us all into partners of a shared grief. A grief which has assembled us in profound sorrow to honor the life of my beloved daughter, Simonette Williams. Simone was not just my daughter, she was my heart, my joy, my hope, and my inspiration. An equal affection I impart upon all my children. Oh God, okay. You got this. Take a breath. Take a breath. You got it. For me, her mother, to speak of my daughter in the past tense is a corruption of nature. This unimaginable loss has left a void in my heart that words may never fully express. Take a breath. Take a breath. Oh God. Simone was a shining light in our lives, a young woman full of passion and promise. As her mother, from a young age, I acknowledge that she, like all my other children, possessed a combination of intelligence, determination, and compassion. I proudly observed that she dedicated her life to the service of others, pursuing her dream of becoming a doctor with an unwavering commitment. She embodied the very essence of healing, often sacrificing her own time and comfort to care for others. Simone's sudden departure from my home and our world feels like an unjust interruption of a life that was meant to be filled with so much love.
An unjust interruption of life that was meant to be filled with so much life. A mother's cry. And Straight Talk continued to call on Commissioner of Police Sutton for an update. But lo and behold, yesterday, Director of Public Prosecution Adley Smith obliged and told the nation this, my Straight Talk family.
I'm currently reviewing two. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to have meetings with the investigators in two causing death matters, one involving the good doctor who was killed in a traffic accident. They're close to the airport there. I had to, I was supposed to meet with them, I think it was Monday of last week. They were supposed to bring the files. But I had to put that aside because of other pressing matters. But I have started to consider one.
Let me stop you there, DPP, and because you said you had to put it aside for other pressing matters. It's not that you are ignoring the case file, because there's been some suggestions out there, I suppose, by persons who may not have well-intended means, but in saying that, you know, the trial essentially, or the case investigation is basically being ignored by the office for whatever reason.
No, it's not being ignored by the office, not at all. Well, let me tell you one of the factors here. Like, for example, in the instance of the doctor, let me start with this principle. You don't make a decision based on just half or 1/3 of the information. You get as much of the information as possible, and then you make the decision, right? Currently, we are still waiting for the autopsy report in relation to the cause of the death of the doctor, because I need to see what injuries she received, where she received them. I asked for information from the officer. What was the height of the vehicle which is alleged to have hit her? And I want to see if there's a correspondence between that.
No autopsy report, my Straight Talk family, up to 4 weeks. But this is a strange development. As Straight Talk believes that the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force is the investigative arm of the law that would pass the file over to the Director of Public Prosecution's office, which they did, for advice regarding prosecution. Police officers, detectives, and other law enforcement personnel are responsible for investigating crimes, for gathering evidence and making arrests. But my Straight Dog family, it looks like Adley Smith, like the Attorney General, now wears two hats. One as Chief Prosecutor and the other as Final Investigator, who in fact said that he visited the crime scene. My Straight Dog family.
I've already gone to the scene, not during the day, at night, when after 10 at night, along the road. Persons this week might have wondered why there was a hold-up on the road. Yes, the Director of Public Prosecution was there, evaluating the scene, checking to see how the accident could have happened, trying to figure out how the young lady ended up in the position she ended up, and so on and so forth. And I have to look at a lot of things, testing to see, okay, can I see if some individual is crossing and so on? Because remember I said, the first part of the decision-making process is to determine if there is a reasonable prospect of conviction. So I have to look at what the accused is saying and see, well, based on what he's saying, based on me looking practically at the thing, because the court is going to have to go to the scene to look for itself. Can I rebut? Can I make a reasonable argument to rebut what the defense is saying? That is what I have to consider. And if I can make a reasonable argument to rebut what the defendant is saying, then he will be charged. But if I can't make a reasonable, then consistent with the decision-making process or protocol which I've already established, I would have to decline to prosecute. But if I do decline to prosecute, rest assured, because the public is very interested in this particular case, I will be putting detailed reasons in writing so the public can have a look at it and see that I did not just make my decision on a whim.
My Straight Talk family, the window dressing is to tell us that whoever killed Dr. Simonette Williams will not be charged. And you can see, my Straight Talk family, Obviously, Adlai Smith has his own vision for a prosecution division to deal with the widespread dissatisfaction with the justice system. And he said it himself, my Straight Talk family. He has his own vision for the justice or the prosecution's division to deal with the widespread satisfaction, my Straight Talk family, with the justice system.
Wanted to get an opportunity to see my vision for our prosecution department actually come to light, right? I think it's not just here in St. Kitts and Nevis or in Antigua and Barbuda, but there's widespread dissatisfaction with the justice system, I find. And I think one of the reasons for that, or one of the key reasons for that, is that the stakeholders in the system are not sensitive to the needs and the interests of the people that it serves.
Stakeholders in the system, such as?
Well, the politicians who hold the ministryship, or who head the ministries which have responsibility for the courts, number one. Those persons who are actually in the system, like for example the prosecutors. I can't say the judges, because judges have a very limited role insofar as what they can do and what they can say. The police, and so on and so forth. We must realize at the end of the day, there's a reason why we're called public servants. We serve the public. Once we cease to serve the interests of the public, what in essence we have become? Public masters.
And my Straight Talk family, the justice system has a wider range of stakeholders, each playing a critical role in ensuring that justice is served. The judges are very important because they preside over cases in courts. They make rulings and ensure that legal processes are followed fairly. And they also have the authority to impose sentences or dismiss cases. Yes, they're lawyers, attorneys, law enforcement agencies you mentioned, defendants and victims, juries, court staff, clerks, bailiffs, correction officers, my Straight Talk family, legislators and lawmakers. But what about advocacy groups, my Straight Talk family? The public. The general public plays a critical role, as they are both the ones who benefit from justice as citizens and potential jurors, and those who are impacted by the justice system, whether as victims or those accused. And each of these stakeholders has their own interests and responsibilities, and the balance between these interests is crucial for the fair and effective functioning of the justice system. But my Straight Talk family, there's another outstanding matter of great interest, my Straight Talk family, that pertains to the former chairman of the CBI Board of Governors and the former magistrate, my Straight Talk family.
You all know that I charged a magistrate for not filing his declaration on time. And persons understandably probably know what is the result of that case. Well, it so happens that after the period expired for the filing of the second declaration, which was April 30th, some names were submitted to me. And again, the magistrate did not file. So he was charged a second time. So he currently has 2 matters before the court.
My Straight Talk family, DPP Adlai Smith also charged Sylvester Anthony, my Straight Talk family.
Prosecution. So that's where we are. There's There's one other person before the court also. I don't want to call the name, right? But the lawyer and I are speaking because there's a particular issue which has arose, and I'm considering, well, whether what he's saying could amount to a reasonable excuse, because like I said, I want to be fair. I don't want to be giving people convictions unnecessarily. But it's when you're hardened and you insist on and so on, that's when I'll go after you, right? And not go after you because I want to go after you, because I'm thinking I'm protecting the integrity of the system of justice of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Oh, my Straight Talk family, you ask yourselves the question, why are their names withheld from the public? And Straight Talk, as a matter of fact, has a copy of a letter written by the DPP, who seems to be in doubt, much doubt, my Straight Talk family, as it relates to the magistrate's court jurisdiction in the matter. The DPP seem to be in doubt, my Straight Talk family, as you can glean from your monitors, my Straight Talk family. There's a summons to the former magistrate dated January 2024, 1 year ago. But it's the letter on your screen there that's of interest. And why is he concealing these names, my Straight Talk family? Written to Magistrate Her Honor, Mrs. Sherry Ann Liburd Charles, Magistrate of District A, Magistrates Court. Dear Your Honor, it reads, read DPP versus Fitzroy Eddy, DPP versus Sylvester Anthony. With reference to the above captioned matters, which are adjourned on Tuesday the 12th, or adjourned to Tuesday the 12th November, 2024, I write to indicate my unavailability next week, owing to it being the week of Court of Appeal, and that I will be in Washington for cybercrime training. In Washington, I am hoping to meet with with representatives of the United States Department of Justice for assistance on an issue that may become relevant in the matter of the DPP versus Fitzroy Eddy. In the interim, I have asked Inspector Eddy to hold for me on Tuesday next week. Also, it is quite possible that defense counsel may have matters before the Court of Appeal as well. Additionally, with reference to the issue of jurisdiction, hear this, my Straight Talk family, I would appreciate the court make an order for written submission as to whether these matters are triable summarily. It is my view that this issue must be determined first before proceeding. Beg your pardon. He took these matters to court. In the circumstances, he writes, I would appreciate if this matter can be adjourned to early January 2025, before the start of the criminal assizes. Further, given that Mr. Eddy has a pending matter for a similar offense, the balance of convenience may indicate that the two matters be tried together. I do sincerely apologize, my Straight Talk family, for any inconvenience caused. The matter came before the court yesterday, and yes, Mr. DPP asked for another adjournment. Straight Talk can confirm, my Straight Talk family. Straight Talk is also following this matter along with the subtle threat of DPP Smith, my Straight Talk family. We are following this closely because there's a subtle threat about the police, my Straight Talk family. We know he visited the scene. We also know, just like the AG, he is bombastic as well.
I don't have to go by summons. I could simply ask the police, you deal with this. I've gotten these names from the integrity in public life, right? And the police could go and apply for warrants and pick you up at your workplace or wherever you may be and take you there, right?
Subtle threat. But Straight Talk will keep you posted on these matters, my Straight Talk family. Ultimately, there are interconnected issues, conflicts of interest, the dismantling of jury trials, political interference in policing, and prosecutorial bungling undermine the principles of fairness, impartiality, and equality before the law. They create a justice system that is not blind, but rather swayed by political, personal, and institutional biases. If these issues are left unaddressed, they will continue to erode public trust and perpetuate a cycle of injustice where the powerful are protected and the marginalized remain vulnerable. In conclusion, my Straight Talk family, I agree with Adley Smith, our current Director of Public Prosecution, that St. Kitts Nevis is at the crossroads of the justice system, my Straight Talk family.
St. Kitts and Nevis citizens and residents, we stand at the crossroads in our justice system. We can either pull together or we can continue to fight against each other. As I would have put in my second press release, which hasn't come out yet, we do ourselves no favors if we engage in a war of words against each other. A house divided against itself cannot stand. It's amazing that in 2024, I can ask Amazon Alexa to turn on my lights, my fan, my electronic devices. I can use AI to do all kinds of things on the computer. But in 2024, we can't find a meaningful way for people to have dialogue where those people have differences of opinion. That is an indictment on us as a people.
Yes, my Straight Talk family, we need to restore faith in the system. Urgent reforms are needed to address these systemic flaws. The independence of the legal system must be preserved. The rights of the accused must be safeguarded. And transparency and accountability must become core principles of law enforcement and prosecution. Only by confronting these grave concerns can we hope to move closer to a truly just and fair society and get rid of this bad culture where our leaders have moved from servants to masters in a justice system at the crossroads. That's my story tonight, my Straight Talk family, and I am not going to change it. I will open the lines and entertain your calls and your emails. And when I do so momentarily, I anticipate that you must respect others. And of course, to achieve that, you must first respect yourselves. Let us try to be fair to all concerned, and let us ensure that the things we say and or do will be beneficial to all concerned. And in the process of doing and or saying those things, let us strive to build a kinder, gentler St. Kitts and Nevis. With that said, at 9 or 8 minutes past the 9 o'clock hour, let's go to our first caller and say good night to this caller. You are live.
Good night, Mr. Liburd.
Good night, my dear. Good night, my dear.
The quote for this evening: if we do not maintain justice, justice will not maintain us. I repeat, if we do not maintain justice, justice will not maintain us. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Very interesting perspective. If we do not maintain justice, justice will not maintain us. Very interesting, my Straight Talk family. Yes, it's 9 past the 9 o'clock hour. We now entertaining your calls and your emails. The lines are open. The numbers are on your screen. My Straight Talk family, let's hear what you got to say in relation to our servants who have become our masters. And that's just because we allow it. Let us hear you about our justice system, which is at the crossroads, my Straight Talk family. And we need to ensure that we, the governed, determine what we consider justice. The prosecutorial misconduct is alarming and continues to undermine justice in our beloved Federation, my Straight Talk family. If you have just joined us and you have joined us for the first time, I may inform you that Straight Talk is heard every Monday and Thursday night from 8 to 10 in the PM. And we include your calls, we include your emails. And my Straight Talk family, I now take your emails, which have all built up. So let me dispense of these emails. I'm happy to have them for those who send emails. Dear Patches reads this email. There's a growing unease that Miss Dorset has been unfairly entangled in a larger and more intricate web of corruption. As a junior lawyer, beg your pardon, the notion that she could access the highly sensitive information alleged by the Director of Public Prosecution strains credibility. The bigger question is who stands to benefit from her silence, and why is she being cast as a scapegoat? To the Dorset family, I urge you to rally behind Chantrice and encourage her to take the brave step of exposing the truth. Her voice has the power to dismantle what may be a calculated scheme, orchestrated by shadowy figures operating behind the scenes. These individuals who manipulate and evade accountability are counting on her silence to keep their secrets buried. Chantrice must recognize that her courage could turn the tide. By exposing those truly responsible, she can not only reclaim her dignity, but also shed light on the dark corridors of power. Now is the time to mash the mastermind without fear or hesitation, and let the truth be her shield. Stand strong, Chantrice. The truth will set you free, and justice demands your voice. Reads this email. The second press release issued by the Ministry of National Security in the case of the Commissioner of Prisons is indicative of the systemic poor performance in the country under the administration led by inefficient, incompetent, and inexperienced individuals. They have no clue or the definition what administration leave is comparable to vacation leave. Mr. Dorset's prison contract was for 2 years and will end this year. I had no intention from day one to have his contract renewed. Therefore, the ineffective ministry has to come again to the public and state the truthful status of Dorset, which is retirement leave, reads this email. Good night, Patches. I just wish to thank you for your continued labor of love, tremendous sacrifice and care as you religiously come on your informative bi-weekly show, Straight Talk, to keep us, the good citizens of our beloved country, informed of current affairs. Patches, the phrase loose cannon originated from nautical practice since the 17th century, but first appeared in Galveston Daily News in 1899. The phrase was coined as a result of when wooden warships had cannons mounted on wheels on their decks. A cannon that came loose from its restraints during a storm or battle could roll around freely, causing significant damage to the ship and crew, thus metaphorically describing someone unpredictable and potentially dangerous, essentially a loose cannon, who acts without control and who is just like an unsecured cannon on the ship, going through a raging storm or in the heat of battle. Patches, unfortunately, it is with a heavy heart that I must shamefully admit that our DPP Adlai Smith fit the mold of a loose cannon succinctly. Yesterday, Patches, the DPP, appeared on In Focus with host Ian Richards. The DPP, just like Boosie, was forced to come back to the media because of the severe beating down he got from social media. He was forced to come back to try to befriend the public and clarify his damaging statements he made in his press release. But he, in a technical way, with his swollen head, couldn't allow himself to do the honorable thing and issue an outright apology to the public. He said so much ignorance that is not funny, Patches. The DPP should tell us that the real reason why he returned was because he was literally barbecued by the police high command. Judges and legal luminaries and Garth Lucifer Wilkin was forced to inform him that a special counsel will be assigned to take over the case to try and salvage this sunken ship that was self-torpedoed by the loose cannon DPP's tongue and braggadocio. The DPP said that any court will frown upon any pretrial publicity. I wonder if the entire press conference he gave was pretrial publicity regarding Miss Dorset's case, as he spelled out in great details the evidence he purportedly has to convict her in the court of law. But he finds it prudent to try and convict her first in the court of public opinion. Now, how in God's name does he expect the young lady to get a fair trial? Patches, this case is dead on arrival, having been killed by none other than the DPP himself, and no amount of specialist or special prosecutor can resuscitate such. The DPP finally broke his silence and spoke about Dr. Simonette Williams' death. He said he was to meet with the investigators last week, Monday, but he had other pressing matters to deal with. Isn't Dr. Simonette Williams' death investigation a pressing matter for the DPP? The public needs to know that the 99.9% of the time when a person is charged, that the DPP never get the completed case file from the police. But the progress report on the investigation instead, and he will look at the sufficiency of the evidence, then direct the police to proceed. The police will then have 21 days or less to submit the completed case file to the DPP. He also said that when he gets the case file, and if the evidence doesn't meet the required threshold to prosecute, then he is prepared to write to indicate his decision arrived at. Are you kidding me, Patches? The DPP has gone insane and needs to take his meds quickly. The DPP has clearly made up his mind that he will be unwilling to prosecute the killer of Dr. Simonette Williams. This loose cannon Adlai Smith need to immediately vacate his office by resigning forthwith or be placed on administrative leave until the resolution of Miss Dorset and Simonette Williams' cases. Gypsy Song, Captain SOS, the DPP office ship in St. Kitts, Nevis, is surely sinking with Adlai Smith as a loose cannon, as a director of public prosecution at the help. Thank you, Patches. Reads this other email. Good night, Patches. I wish to commend Dr. Harris for his care and love for the people of this country and his desire to see that justice is done to all victims of crime so that each family can have proper closure, especially in laying their loved ones killed to a proper rest. Patches, one of July's apologists, who called herself Rennie Monkhill Bass, posted on her Facebook on Tuesday that she lost all respect for Dr. Harris because she was at the funeral of Dr. Simonette Williams along with Dr. Harris, when she overheard Dr. Harris asking a family member of Dr. Simonette Williams if he could be allowed to give a tribute to Dr. Williams. She said in essence that the family basically insulted Dr. Harris by declining his request, by politely telling him that the funeral was not a political campaign and that the family wished to refrain from using Dr. Simonette's name for political purposes. She went on to say that Dr. Harris will do anything to advance his agenda regardless of the circumstances. Now, Patches, if Dr. Simonette Williams could come back from the dead, she would have scolded, and I venture to say even disowned her family for allowing the same Labour Party henchmen to dishonor her in the way they did. How could the family allow Dr. Jensen Morton in his PR stunt tribute at her funeral to dismiss Simonette's plea for her 46 days' pay? For Simonette abusers up close and personal denigrated her legacy right in their faces. This is comparable, Patches, to a young daughter who complained to her mother that the man or relative who is the breadwinner of the family is coming into her bed for 46 nights and sexually assaulting her. The mother, instead of believing her daughter and taking a stand, simply tells her to hush her mouth, because if she says anything and report it, he will go jail and the money will stop. How could the family of Dr. Simonette Williams refuse to allow Dr. Harris, our third Prime Minister, a voice of reason and decency, from giving his tribute to honor the legacy of a proud daughter of the soil? Simonette, whose life was cut short by the same breadwinner who abused her, and is now the DPP to treat her case as not a pressing matter, and is also on the verge of setting the killer free. How could the family sit there and allow Dr. Jensen Morton to infer that Simonette Williams was mentally unstable? Did the family realize that Dr. Jensen Morton's speech was crafted by July? Lucifer Wilkin and Wimpy Martin, as July sat there with an obvious smirk on his dishonorable face, while Dr. Jensen fed them the July dose of hush and poison. How could Wycliffe, her brother, who had his one and only chance to defend his baby sister from her abuser and killer, finally fail her for the remaining 80% by not asking for justice and fairness for his baby sister? This is a national disgrace, Patches. I rest my case. Reads this other email. A pleasant good night to you, Patches. I'm a young voter. I hope you're doing well. Yes, I'm peaceful. Patches, I'm a young voter, and this is my first time writing to your great and informative show. I was born and raised into the bowels of a Labour family, as most of my family voting in constituency 4 still supports the Labour Party. The younger of us from 2015 shifted and supported Team Unity. In 2022, after the breakup of Team Unity, we blame Pam for the breakup, so approximately 80% of us who supported Team Unity went and lent our support to the PLP, while the remaining 20% stayed loyal to Pam. I am one who shifted my loyalty to PLP and voted for Liburd in the last election. Now the 80% of us who is still supporting PLP are very concerned, because as we go to the door in the constituency doing our canvassing, the people are angry at us. They told us that PLP can't be serious, as they remember that it was Mandy Colonial Marsham, who is now the deputy chair for PLP4, was the same person who vehemently abused Dr. Harris, Liburd, and the PLP supporters in 2022. And she seemed to be on a paid mission by Samal and Dawood Byron to completely destroy PLP. She was sent to get inside information about PLP. Dr. Harris, you must be careful of ravenous wolves who dress up in wolves' costume and portrays themselves as PLP sheep. I call on you, Dr. Harris, as a good and caring shepherd, to be discerning and strip all of the wolves of their costume, Then all and sundry will see their true species as they will don their costume and gallop straight back to Samal and the Labour Party, whom they are presently sharing all of PLP strategies with. Have a pleasant night, Patches. Yes, it's 9:25, my Straight Dog family. I dispense of the emails. I didn't really ignore your calls. Forgive me if it seemed that way, my Straight Dog family, but the emails just keep building up on me, so I decided to dispense of quite a lot of them. So I'll get back to the lines, my Straight Dog family. And if you have just joined me, we are looking at our thesis tonight, which I have titled From Servants to Masters, Justice System at the Crossroads. And my Straight Dog family, I also provided information that the DPP Adley Smith seemed to have taken over the investigation of that vehicular homicide or vehicular killing of the young Dr. Simonette Williams. But we'll get back to that. Let's first go to the lines and say good night to this caller. Calling you live. Hello, caller.
Yes. Yes. Good night, Patches. Good night. Thank you.
Good night, sir.
Wonderful topic again. And I must commend you for always educating the world. You keep on to be very inspiration to me, and I know you speak volumes for others. Now, I need you to follow me keenly, and let me call the rest of the listeners. You are in class. Now, first of all, Patches, I am going to jump on Simonette issue, but I'm going to apply common sense to all the dictation I've heard. Now, when a person works, right, and he doesn't get his pay at an anticipated time, what do you think will happen? Don't you think that they are going to be angry? Because by the sweat of your brow, you're supposed to eat bread, and you work to make money, and money is the exchange without robbery. Am I correct in that? Stand for correction.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay. Now, if Simonette went to do her studies and graduated and came back home to serve her country and to help her mother, and she got through a phase of not being paid as she spoke out. Okay? Now, she spoke the truth because she was feeling a feeling of a feeling. And those who know she should have been paid. And she lashed out so vividly. It must upset them. And it's like a war of the words. And somewhere along the way, she might have hit a home run, which I think she hit a home run. And what take place moving forward? Okay? We have a debt. So it looked very obvious and curious. Now, moving to the investigation. I am going to allege in a way, because I'm going to be very careful. I'm not pointing fingers. I believe Simonette could have been killed before she was run over by the car. That's my theory. Others can have their own. I'm not being direct because there are more than one ways we can strive to a mountaintop. So, going on so long, if they have an alleged killer, alleged person who was involved in the vehicle accident, what taking them so long to find out what is in that head of that person? Who is dragging the feet? Who is playing games? To me, anything in St. Kitts when it comes around seriousness, public servant, public service, they all take it into their own hands and they don't give a damn. And I think the culture has to change when a government assign personnel given an opportunity to serve the public. It is not yours. You are a servant. Stop take the people's business to be your business. And I could go all over the place. But I will stop at that point. I'm going to be short and decisive. But my main focal point, apart from all these utterance, is government should respect the dignity that God gave all of us. And dignity comes with every respect to mankind. And in St. Kitts, the dignity of mankind is not respected. And that is what I need to give to the people, and I shall give. And we shall give to each other. My dignity is your dignity, and your dignity is mine. And no man can wash that out. Dignity for the people. People, vote for dignity. Vote for your needs and your crave, so we all can make it over yonder. Bye for now. Thank you. I leave it for other people to come in.
Thank you very much for your intervention. And, you know, we've been following the young doctors killing for almost a month. And we have complained, we have highlighted the deafening silence of the Commissioner of Police, James Sutton. After all, he's the Commissioner of Police. He must keep the country apprised, keep the country informed. And as the weeks went by, his silence became louder and louder. And this young soul was interred on Monday last. We heard her mother. A mother's cry, we've heard. Who spoke of her unjust interruption of life. And Straight Talk continued to call on the Commissioner of Police Sutton for an update. But my Straight Talk family, the Director of Public Prosecutions seemed to have taken over the investigation of this death. We thought he was a prosecutor. But in fact, he seemed to be now the chief investigator.
I'm currently reviewing two. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to have meetings with the investigators in two causing death matters. One involving the good doctor who was killed in a traffic accident. They're close to the airport there. I had to, I was supposed to meet with them, I think it was Monday of last week. They were supposed to bring the files. But I had to put that aside because of other pressing matters. But I have started to consider one.
Let me stop you there, DPP, and because you said you had to put it aside for other pressing matters. It's not that you are ignoring the case file, because there's been some suggestions out there, I suppose, by persons who may not have well-intended means, but in saying that, you know, the trial essentially, or the case investigation is basically being ignored by the office for whatever reason.
No, it's not being ignored by the office, not at all. Well, let me tell you one of the factors here. Like, for example, in the instance of the doctor, let me start with this principle. You don't make a decision based on just half or 1/3 of the information. You get as much of the information as possible, and then you make the decision, right? Currently, we are still waiting for the autopsy report in relation to the cause of the death of the doctor, because I need to see what injuries she received, where she received them. I asked for information from the officer. What was the height of the vehicle which is alleged to have hit her? And I want to see if there's a correspondence between that.
And thus, the chief prosecutor now seemed to have turned chief investigator. Caller, thank you for holding. You're live.
Yeah, good evening, Patches, man. Good night, man. How you doing tonight, man?
I am peaceful, my brother. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Good night to the listeners. Yes, of course. Justice is necessary for Simoneth Williams, Mark Milk, and all of the unsolved mystery murders and crimes in St. Kitts and Nevis. Whoever is responsible for that department, they themselves are so corrupted it ain't funny. They're not doing their jobs. They're not working and solving these crimes. It doesn't look good at all. It just seems like they caught a big fish. All of a sudden, they got renewed strength and energy putting into this one person they say that they're so allegedly charged. What happened to all the other crimes? It's a lot of white-collar crimes happening in the Federation as well. Who is watching over those white-collar criminals? Equal rights and justice for all. The law cannot be applied to a segment of the society. It has to apply to everyone. Persons are breaking the law and they're getting away with it. Then they're going to squeeze the common man in the street. Yeah, thanks for bringing back the conversation about the visit from the Prime Minister up to the monarchy and that clip you played. He went to visit the king, but up to now, there ain't a report about that visit. I don't know if that's to come, like everything else. But he need to report back to the people what that visit was all about. Like I said last show, and like you reiterate tonight, was there any conversation about reparations and about the promise that he made to the people he's going to take the country republic? Different than that, man, two things that this administration fundamentally I see that they're working on, and is to curb the judicial system in their favor and to impede on the basic fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution to the people, freedom of speech and expression. They are trying to hamper the citizens' rights to freedom of speech and expression. St. Kitts and Nevis citizens got to pay attention to what's going on. Keep that focus and keep your eyes on the prize.
Okay.
We cannot sit there and let these people run away with the country and do whatever they want to do. Thank you for putting up that clip with that, what's that? Jack and the Beanstalk Tower that's going up in Nevis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for putting that up tonight, Patches, because I noticed, what is that? That structure is what, 4 to 6 levels up already?
It looks like, six levels, if I recall.
That's going to probably be different than the Bath Hotel that I know. That might probably be the tallest structure in Nevis right now.
It is.
On the western side of Nevis there, the most prime real estate in Nevis. Four Seasons have a section of it. And then this millionaire or billionaire Russian is now coming to take the rest. That area down there in Pinners Beach where they say that they're working on trying to get it up to looking like they're in Miami Beach. You won't get there that easy. This guy with that tower, he is going to be towering over everyone. He's going to be towering over the whole property of Four Seasons and that beachfront area, prime real estate lands of Nevis.
Okay.
We were lucky, last point before I get off, we were lucky to get back some of these lands coming out of slavery. And the governments from then to now didn't put anything in place to preserve the land for the people.
Okay.
So now we are just watching St. Kitts and Nevis being sold out. Eventually, we locals will have no access to none of these lands. It's going to be all rich folks, upper class people owning these lands. And with that said, St. Kitts and Nevis is really in trouble. Thanks a lot, man. Have a good night.
Thanks a lot for your contribution. As usual, we go straight back to the lines at 9:40. Yes, you are live. Yes, my dear brother.
How you do?
I am peaceful. What about yourself? Is this the main?
Boy, yes, I always peaceful. But I started just give you a little thing here. I was here, I think it's 2 days ago I was reading it, and I wish that you could come on and look against you on, because I just get up again. And here I want to say, Patches, Spencer, Winston Spencer Churchill. You know, he was England's lion-hearted prime minister, isn't it?
Something like that.
When that something is a fact, he was Britain's lion-hearted prime minister. You not know something? You know that?
Yes.
I'm sure you heard about that Atlantic Charter. All when there's fishing and so on. But he was so cunning that he could do a lot of things. He was a very powerful man. Very powerful man.
Yes.
Winston Spencer Churchill. And what he said, I don't want to keep it back too long, because maybe somebody they want to get in. And what he said, you hear, is that attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. So what I'm saying, regardless of what I list in the DPPP and them sort of things, I don't consider what happens as a little thing, but it have a big difference, And let's look at it, because this is serious. I mean, he's supposed to be the man in charge of law, isn't it? He's in charge of law?
Well, he's the chief prosecutor.
Yeah, yes. Well, so he's the chief, so therefore he's a powerhouse.
Yes, he is.
Eh?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's a powerhouse. So, and that is why I said, attitude is a little thing, but it makes a big difference. I feel that. So I don't know how you're going to analyze and plan that, because you're a teacher, and you are the headmaster, and I am the assistant teacher, right?
Okay, man.
Yeah.
Yes, Winston. Churchill said something like this: I no longer listen to what people say.
Yeah.
Just watch what they do.
Yeah.
Because behavior never lies.
Yeah. Well, you see, that is why they say the attitude. Yes. The attitude. Yes. The attitude. It is a little thing, but it makes big difference.
Yes.
Right? And I also remember that. And I did that when I was in boys' school. And I got the books that I really, So I was still when I have my free time and time, I think. And I started that come right away. And I said, this is what is appropriate to this issue, what is going on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Major. Always.
Okay.
Always good. Always good to hear you.
Yeah.
Major. Fallout, right?
Okay.
Diplomacy is the art of telling people go to hell in such a way that they ask for directions.
Well,
that's from Churchill. That's from Churchill. That's from Churchill.
Yes. Churchill,
Yes.
He was Britain's prime minister.
Okay, my brother. Have a good night.
Spencer. Yeah. Winston Spencer Churchill.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, and my brother. Yes, another Winston Churchill has some quotations. I'm sure we marvel at them when you hear them. He says, "Diplomacy is the art of telling people go to hell in such a way that they will ask for directions." Caller, you're live. It's
people go to hell in such a way that they will ask for directions.
Are they caller?
Caller, you're live.
Are you there, caller? Yeah, yes, just turn your equipment down. Turn your equipment down, off. and listen to your telephone. Yeah, just turn your equipment off, turn it down, or move away, and listen to your telephone. I want the world to hear you.
I did.
Yes, just move away from your equipment. Can you?
I did. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Sounds like the Bible man.
Good night, Patches.
Good night, the Bible man. How art thou? Hello? Are you there, sir?
Hello?
Yes, you're live on Straight Talk, Bible man. You're live. Go right ahead.
What is this here? Good night, Mr. Patrick, and how are you?
I am peaceful. Yourself? What about you?
Oh, my Lord. That is Psalm 75.
Unto thee. Do we give thanks?
Here it is here. Verse 3, Psalm 75. Lift up Psalm 75. Lift up not your hands on high.
Neither speak.
Speak not unto the width of the staff of the neck.
Stiff neck.
Promotion cometh from
neither from the east,
neither from the east,
nor the west,
neither from the west,
nor from the south,
nor from the south.
but it comes.
But God is the judge.
God is the judge who puts one down.
Put down one
and sets another up.
And set up another.
Yes, my Lord.
So, Mr. Patrick, I was waiting patiently for you tonight, but you know, Patrick, I just sleep. Because I will be the first one to reach in there, but I just sleep.
Good.
And so, me and take it no more time, and so here I'm telling you something tonight. God is good to hear parties.
All the time.
And God look after his children, them. And I couldn't really, because I know somebody want to hear the word tonight. And I want to say to somebody tonight that God is in the mix of everything. And when people believe to themselves, they could go on bad and do everything, God not ready for them yet. God rule the whole universe. That is good night. See you. Bye.
Yes, good night, my dear brother. And thanks as usual for your spiritual intervention. Dear Patches, reads this email. Dr. Drew's government has descended into an unrestrained orgy of reckless spending, squandering hard-earned taxpayer dollars on a clique of so-called ambassadors who are nothing more than glorified parasites. These well-tempered freeloaders, handpicked for political loyalty rather than competence, have no office to report to, no duties to fulfill, and no one to supervise their aimless existence. Yet, without fail, their fat, undeserved paychecks of $10,000 arrive like clockwork every single month. For weeks, even months, they then vanish into obscurity, wallowing into luxurious idleness while the struggling masses in St. Kitts and Nevis are battered by the sky-high food prices, crumbling infrastructure, and deteriorating public services, not to mention the unpaved and unpainted roads that remain a hazard to every driver. These shadowy, blood-sucking leeches contribute nothing to national development. Yes, you heard me the first time. Yet they feast gluttonously at the taxpayers' expense, stuffing their pockets while ordinary citizens scrape to survive. Yes, you heard me. Should we be proud of this Labour government? This is not just incompetence. It is a vulgar, brazen plundering of public funds by a government that governs with impunity. How many potholes could be fixed? How many children could be fed? How many elderly citizens could receive proper health care if these idle bureaucratic ornaments were removed from the national payroll? Patches, the people must not sit silently while Jew and his gang of political misfits rob them blind. This is not governance. This is legalized theft. Reads this email. This other email reads, Mr. AG, where is the justice for the Jamaican murdered in Sandy Point? Patches, allow me to address the AG, Mr. AG Garth Lucifer Wilkin. You put on quite the performance in Parliament, incessantly prattling on about the fairness and justice embedded in the new traffic laws and increased fines. But let me ask you, where was the fairness and justice for the Jamaican young man who was brutally murdered in Sandy Point by a Labour supporter? You see, while you wax typical nonsense about equality, the stark reality is that the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party politics has once again poisoned the pursuit of justice in this country. The police were explicitly prevented from conducting a proper investigation and arresting and charging the suspect, a woman who admitted to the crime. Instead, she was freed from police custody by a gang of Labour supporters, an unprecedented and dangerous act that was allowed to happen under your watch. AG, yes, it happened under your watch. How does this fit into your justice for all narrative? Your government, including you and the Prime Minister, issued orders to prevent the arrest, citing the woman's history of physical abuse from the murdered man. But let me be clear, only the High Court or Coroner's Court has the authority to make that determination, not Jew, not Garth, and certainly not the DPP. Is this because the victim was Jamaican and not Kittitian or Nevisian? What does it say about your government's commitment to justice? The people are watching you, Mr. AG. The stench of corruption has reached the highest heavens, reads this email. This other email reads, good night, Mr. Patches. Perfect theme justice system at Crossroads. The courthouse situation in Nevis is at its extreme. Premier Mark Brantley said mold is everywhere and stating staff could be sick from home or gym. Staff experiencing burning eyes, itching skin, flu-like symptoms, terrible rash outbreak. He's the one who said his strength is in the court, the same court he's neglecting. How can his law firm be successful without the court? What about the Attorney General Garth Wilkin? Why is he neglecting the court and allowing the staff to be sick? How can Kelsick Wilkin law firm make money with all workers on sick leave? Doesn't people's lives matter anymore? Again, Mr. Patches, does the courthouse in Nevis is the NIA of federal responsibility? Cause both governments have neglected the courthouse, where the registrar of the High Court reads this email. Dear Patches, it's both alarming and disheartening to hear that there are 68 Kittitians and Nevisians currently on the Trump administration's deportation list to be repatriated to the Federation. These individuals may have been exposed to serious felons and are said to be released into our society as unemployable, potentially lacking family connections, and likely with no support system in place. This is not just a humanitarian crisis, it's a looming security threat. Yet, what is even more troubling is that our absent-minded Prime Minister Dr. Ju and the Minister of National Security remain completely clueless about how to deal with this situation. I have heard rumors that Dr. Ju is secretly hoping that the 68th will be division so he can pass the buck on to Mark Brantley and Nevis, letting them shoulder their burden. Is this the kind of leadership we have? A leader too disinterested, too incompetent to take action on such a pressing issue, letting it fall between the cracks of his own inaction. The people need a plan, support reintegration, but instead, it seems like Dr. Ju would rather sweep the problem under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist. This is not leadership, Patches. This is gross negligence, reads this other email. And take this and make this my final email. It is, Mr. Big Lies, I am an ardent listener to your program, reads this email, and always look for them. However, last week you said something that upset many people, and you were aware of it, even before you utter it. For your preemption was, I know what I'm going to say now will hurt a lot of people. But anyhow, I'm going to say it anyhow. You then proceeded to say, and I am that we tried Douglas, Simmons, Harris, and Ju, and they failed us. Therefore, we must create some young persons, but never go back to Harris or Douglas. Well, Big Lies, you need to be honest, realistic, straightforward, and say that what you mean and mean what you say. Otherwise, your credibility, if you have any at all, will be compromised. You had many solid things to say about Douglas. You sang a very critical calypso about him. And in 2022 election campaign at Connery, you called the said Douglas to the rostrum where you were speaking at a Labour political campaign meeting and begging pardon for the egregious things you said about him. But Douglas was laughing at you in his heart, saying, thou fool, you campaigned for a young, inexperienced Jew who is absent-minded when it comes to governance, and we all know that things not going well under his leadership, but you're still maintaining him. Big Lies, Harris is the only experienced leader right now. We have to lead the country to the promised land. And my Straight Talk family, it's 3 minutes before the 10 o'clock hour. As we wind down tonight's programming, and as I intimated earlier, and for those who may have joined me late, our thesis tonight, From Servants to Masters, Justice System at Crossroads. And my Straight Talk family, in the process, I looked at the many issues, several issues, as it relates to our representatives and those who administer our justice system. And my Straight Talk family, I told you that since August 2022, with the advent of the July administration, the justice system here in St. Kitts and Nevis has faced what I call defining crossroads. Historically, the justice system in its ideal form had been portrayed as a servant of the people, upholding the rule of law and serving the public interest with impartiality and fairness. I told you once about the late Premier Robert Bradshaw, who never tampered with the course of justice, even when his best friend Big Sam transgressed the laws of our land. For Bradshaw, justice was blind. Caller, I'll guide you by the rules of brevity. You're live. Hello, caller?
Yeah, good night. Yeah, good night, Patrice.
Good night, sir.
Hey, Patrick, I got something to ask you. You hear about a new party, the farming?
A new party where?
For the next election.
A party in
And I
St. Kitts or
heard that.
Nevis?
No, in the diaspora, it is the
diaspora.
party named the SNDP. But they recruit, but my understanding is that they're recruiting you to be the prime minister. Welcome as the deputy and the guy from Nevis as the premier. Patrice,
yes,
they offer you a position. Remember the couple program back, they said they will work under you.
How you hear that? I didn't hear that one.
Oh, you didn't remember Welcome say he will work under you?
Probably forgot. I'm not saying insane.
Are you playing smart, Patrice?
No, probably
But
forgot. Probably forgot. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So you're part of the
that
party
is what's
too?
going on.
I am peaceful.
No, I get it. No, I'm not a part of the party, but I got good grounds and good information. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah, so they want to recruit you and they offer you an open invitation.
Okay.
So I don't know if they contact you behind my back. So I don't know what's going on. So let us know if you did the sport, the SNDP.
I'm not laughing at you, but it sounds very interesting, though.
All right, check into it, Patrice.
Okay, my
All
brother.
right, good night, my brother.
Good night, my brother. Good night. Well, very interesting perspective there. And perhaps that's the way we're going to end it tonight, my Straight Dog family. Because as we wrap, the introduction of this new leadership and policies has led to concerns that the justice system, rather than acting as a neutral arbiter, had begun to take the role of master, serving the interests of those in power rather than the people it was designed to protect. There were open threats from the Attorney General, not freeing nobody. But the July's administration's influence over the justice system since 2022 has marked a critical turning point in the relationship between the state and its citizens. I believe, and I quoted Benjamin Franklin, who I believe was the one who said that those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. My Straight Talk family, as I wrap tonight's programming, I must make the point and implore us as a people. We the people must no longer tolerate the rampant corruption from this government that has failed us now for almost 3 years, and it gets progressively worse with time. The purpose of any government is to benefit all citizens, to protect their rights, and to ensure their well-being. My Straight Talk family, at the crossroads of our justice system, a confluence of deeply troubling issues threatens to undermine fundamental principles of fairness, impartiality, and accountability. And I must leave you with the comments made by the Director of Public Prosecution, Adley Smith, who seemed to have taken over the investigation of the killing he himself referred to the killing of Dr. Simonette Williams. He said this.
Currently reviewing 2. As a matter of fact, I was supposed to have meetings with the investigators in 2 causing death matters. One involving the good doctor who was killed in a traffic accident. They're close to the airport there. But I had to, I was supposed to meet with them, I think it was Monday of last week.
And you hear that, my straight talk family, the good doctor who was killed. Those were his words.
Supposed to bring the files. But I had to put that aside because of other pressing matters. But I have started to consider one.
Let me stop you there, DPP, and because you said you had to put it aside for other pressing matters. It's not that you are ignoring the case file, because there's been some suggestions out there, I suppose, by persons who may not have well-intended means, but in saying that, you know, the trial essentially, or the case investigation is basically being ignored by the office for whatever reasons.
No, it's not being ignored by the office, not at all. Well, let me tell you one of the factors here. Like, for example, in the instance of the doctor, let me start with this principle. You don't make a decision based on just half or 1/3 of the information.
But my straight talk family, this is a strange development, as Straight Talk believes that the Royalist and Christopher and Nevis police force is the investigative arm of the law that would or should pass the file over to the DPPO, the Director of Public Prosecution's Office, for advice regarding prosecution. Police officers, detectives, and other law enforcement personnel are responsible for investigating crimes. They are responsible for gathering evidence and making arrests. But it looks like it's Adley Smith, just like the Attorney General. He now wears 2 hats, because he even visited the crime scene. Would you believe that, my Straight Talk family?
I've already gone to the scene, not during the day, at night, when after 10 at night, along the road. Persons this week might have wondered why there was a hold-up on the road. Yes, the Director of Public Prosecution was there, evaluating the scene, checking to see how the accident could have happened, trying to figure out how the young lady ended up in the position she ended up, and so on and so forth. And I have to look at a lot of things, testing to see, okay, can I see if some individual is crossing and so on? Because remember I said, the first part of the decision-making process is to determine if there is a reasonable prospect of conviction. So I have to look at what the accused is saying and see, well, based on what he's saying, based on me looking practically at the thing, because the court is going to have to go to the scene to look for itself. Can I rebut? Can I make a reasonable argument to rebut what the defense is saying? That is what I have to consider. And if I can make a reasonable argument to rebut what the defendant is saying, then he will be charged. But if I can't make a reasonable, then consistent with the decision-making process or protocol, which I've already established, I would have to decline to prosecute. But if I do decline to prosecute, rest assured, because the public is very interested in this particular case, I will be putting detailed reasons in writing so the public can have a look at it and see that I did not just make my decision on a whim.
About to dismiss or not charge. He's laid the groundwork not to charge whoever is the perpetrator. That's the only way we can interpret that. But in conclusion, my Straight Talk family, and I agree with Adley Smith, our current Director of Public Prosecution, that St. Kitts and Nevis, we are at the crossroads of the justice system. To restore faith in the system, urgently, we need reforms to address the systematic flaws. Caller, why you normally call at this time? I can only give you 10 seconds. Can you use it?
Yeah, it's just a quick question, Patches.
Yeah.
Why is the DPP talking so reckless, man?
He is.
You know, he like you saying, he's laying the groundwork to not prosecute, and the people got to pay attention to that, and don't let him get away with that.
Yes.
Thanks, man. Have a good night.
Have a good night as well. And yes, we need to restore faith in the system. Urgent reforms are needed to address these systemic flaws. The independence of the legal system must be preserved. The rights of the accused must be safeguarded, and transparency and accountability must become core principles of law enforcement and prosecution. Only by confronting these grave concerns can we hope to move closer to a truly just and fair society and get rid of this bad culture where our leaders have moved from servants to masters. And our justice system is at the crossroads. That's my story tonight, my Straight Talk family, and I am not going to change it. I must thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight, as always. I must thank you, the many listeners. Thank you who called, and those who sent emails. And to remind you, the callers, the emailers, and the thousands of listeners, you are the ones who make Straight Talk, and for that reason, I say a big, big thank you. I am Ian Patches Liburd, and God's Spear, we will connect on Monday for another edition of Straight Talk. So until we connect on Monday, have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Do your chores. I'm going to church. Go praise your Lord. I'm going to praise my Lord. Whatever your mind conceive, that you will achieve, my Straight Talk family. But spend your time wisely. And when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light. Thank Him for taking you through the night. And my Straight Talk family, keep moving on. Bye-bye until we connect on Monday for another edition of Straight Talk. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend.